I'll share my techniques on painting cabinets, everything from primer to urethane paint, the spray rig itself, the tip size, viscosity. We've got all the details covered in this short video. Stick around for pro-looking results when painting your cabinets. We're spraying emerald urethane today, and it's a dark gray color. It sprays really nice. The gun itself is a Fuji T70. Normally it has a siphon feed bottom cup, but we're going to hook it up to a pressure pot today, so that'll allow us to spray in an inverted position and handle all the surfaces on these cabinets. But to get things started, we'll get going with a coat of primer. I like to start on the inside of the cabinets, that way you're not bumping your hose up against wet paint. Then move on to the face frame and finish up with the outside of the cabinet boxes. That seems to work really well. Now with this pressure pot setup, I can't emphasize enough how helpful it is to be able to spray at any angle. You can turn the gun all the way upside down and it'll still maintain positive pressure. You'll have good fluid output, the same as if you were holding the gun upright. Now remember to spray your drawer fronts and any trim pieces you might have all in one go. Now in an ideal world, I guess you would spray everything horizontally, but for a large cabinet project like this, that's really not feasible. So you'll want to come up with a way to hang things vertically, just so you can spray all sides and then set it aside to dry. Things will move along a lot more efficiently that way. Now there is a specific order that you want to hit doors like this. This is a shaker style door, so it has that little inset panel, and that's where you can have some trouble spraying if you don't have a plan in your mind when you're starting out. But we'll go over the technique specifically when we get to the urethane top coat. Here's a look at the T70 gun with the fluid coupler attached at the bottom, and we're running a 1.8mm air cap set. The pressure pot holds 2 quarts, so you can really just focus on spraying and not worrying about if you're running out of finish. You'll make a lot of mileage with that 2-quart pressure pot. What's that line from Mommy Dearest? No wire hangers? No wire hangers!
No wire hangers!
Actually, the wire hangers are better in this case. The plastic ones are prone to breaking under heavy loads. Might just want to stick with the metal hangers for this project. So the primer is dry now, and we've scuff sanded everything with a 320 grit soft sanding sponge. You don't have to get anything more aggressive than that. Just scuff sand it till it's smooth to the touch. I'll go ahead and mix up that Sherwin Williams Emerald urethane paint, and we'll spray on the first coat. My spray rig for top coat is the same as I used for primer. It's a T70 gun converted over to use with a 2-quart pressure pot system, and that just requires this clear hose to supply the paint, large 2-quart pot, and the cap to that system. So that's all available separately from Fuji. You'll use some Velcro straps to lash the hose and your air hose together. And then one of the real keys to this system for me is to use a remote control. Makes it so much easier. I don't have to walk over to the turbine every time I need to turn it on or off. Just keep a little remote control on a table nearby. And hey, if you get one thing right about spraying, make it good ventilation. At least 2 sources of fresh ventilation with fans running, and always use a respirator approved for organic vapors. We're spraying emerald urethane trim paint, and if you like this particular color we're spraying today, it's Roycroft Pewter. This is the thickness of the urethane paint right out of the can, and obviously that's a little too thick for spraying, so we'll thin that 10% with water in a separate container. So this is the urethane paint after thinning, and maybe you can see there's really no tracings left by the paint now. It disappears almost immediately into the bucket. And that's about what you want. Oh, it's exciting. Sometimes I do this for fun, just watching paint go through the strainer. And then just screw the lid onto the pressure pot. And the greatest thing about this system is, of course, all the paint is down in this pot, which you can just set on the floor if you're working close to your cabinet. And that way, the only thing that you're carrying is just the lightweight end of the gun with the hoses attached. It's a great system. The tip, by the way, is a 1.8. Make sure your bleeder valve is closed before you get started. And make air connection with your regular quick connect. Now, how quickly the paint comes up the fluid hose is an indication of your viscosity as well. If your paint is rising up the hose any slower than this, you might want to thin your paint a little more or turn up the air pressure if you happen to have an adjustable turbine unit. So we'll look at the specific technique on spraying these shaker cabinets so you get the best result and you don't miss any of those inside edges. So the sequence for spraying that I like best is to start with the outside edges, go all the way around the cabinet door on the outside edges, and you'll see this rain shadow start to develop. It's an area that doesn't get paint naturally just because of the shape of the door, and so your next pass will come back and you want to angle the gun to deliberately hit that rain shadow area. That'll give you a good coverage with every coat. And we're planning on 2 coats after the primer here for really good coverage. After that's complete, you can go ahead and finish up the main field of the panel. Have a good look at the panel and make sure you don't have any runs or sagging paint lines. If you did, of course, you'd be able to easily brush those out and correct things on the next coat. As far as the method of attack for the cabinets, it's the same as the primer. We're going to start on the inside of the cabinet, so we're leaning up against a dry surface, move on to the face frame, and then we'll finish things up by spraying the outside of the cabinet. Here I've moved on to a bank of uppers, and I just have them laying on their back. My general plan here is to spray a cabinet and then with a helper move it to the far side of the shop. That way I'm concentrating all of my overspray in one area. Makes a smaller mess that way in my experience. This is a double base cabinet and we're just spraying around the edges of the frame and door opening. And I tell you, having the ability to spray upside down, if you've ever used a turbine system or really any HPLP sprayer, you'll have a limitation. You can only spray for a second or two upside down, and then any gun will start to lose that fluid pressure. And with the pressure pot, that isn't the case. You can continue spraying with really good results. After the first coat dries for about 4 hours, you can scuff sand things with a fine sanding sponge. Somewhere in the 800 to 1000 grit range works fine. And you're not going to be applying very much pressure. This is just a quick, light scuff sanding. Then clean your parts off with a little bit of cheesecloth. Blow it off with compressed air to ready yourself for the next coat. This is something that really moves along pretty quick. I would say this pressure pot system is not quite as fast as an airless sprayer, but this is in real time, so you can move along pretty quick when you're laying down that second coat. It won't slow you down at all. On the back of the panel, there's less to worry about, no rain shadow issues, so just move right along and spray all your parts and hit the cabinets with the second coat as well. After that second coat, it's a nice smooth finish with a satin sheen. Thanks for stopping by the Thoughtful Woodworker shop. Give me a quick thumbs up if you like the topic and subscribe to the channel. You know, cabinet finishing is a topic that tends to generate lots of questions, so if something isn't clear to you, just drop me a note in the comment section. I'll get back to you. The next video to watch is compressor driven versus turbine style spray guns. If you're going down the wormhole of spray finishing, it's a good one to watch. Hey, we'll see you on the next one. Oh, it's exciting. Sometimes I do this for fun, just watching paint go through the strainer.